I'm here representing the 19 behavior analysts who received supervision from the Unit B supervisor you intend to cut, who's Dr. Jim Ellis. While we appreciate the difficult fiscal position the district finds itself in, eliminating this position will have far-reaching consequences for the most vulnerable students we serve, as well as their families. It will also cost the district a pretty staggering sum of money in the next several years. Dr. Ellis's support of our many special ed programs enables the district to meet the needs of students with very complex learning profiles.
I'm here to request that you keep the full-time DEI Director of Diversity and lay the foundation to reinstate the department to its 2.5 FTE. What gives me credibility to speak tonight? I'm an alum from last year Newton North High School, and I have a business, and I am a Harvard instructor. Many of my education clients include superintendent associations in Indiana, Louisville, Kentucky, Boston, Framingham. I've trained thousands of people. I've trained Newton public school teachers thinking about the dynamics that white women have challenging and working on issues of diversity.
I have attended all 13 years of my education through the Newton public school system. I have been the class president of Newton North High School for the past 4 years, and I'm engaged in many extracurriculars throughout the community. So I have seen firsthand the issues that the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion seeks to address. In my 13 years of education in the Newton public school system, I have had one Black classroom teacher. I have been, out of the 7 advanced placement courses that I have taken, I have been either the only or one of 2 Black students in 5 out of 7 of them, a statistic that is not reflective of the diversity in our school system. I have read books by only 3 authors of the African diaspora in all of my English classes throughout the Newton public school curriculum. Looking at reports from the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, these numbers and realities in school are imperfect, but they are being improved every year through our commitment to equity and excellence through our Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We have seen the experimentation and introduction of various programs, including a service for affinity mentorship programs made available to my sister in 5th grade while she was in elementary school, a program that I wish that I had had access to at her age. Making cuts to the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion does not honor the Newton Public Schools' commitment to equity and excellence. It tells students of color that even if this is a hard decision and a decision that we don't want to make, when hard decisions have to be made, we are okay putting them on the back burner. We are okay putting their needs back in the margins of society. It tells students that when money is tight, we are okay not investing in them and their future and their success. As a graduating senior, I hope and I strongly recommend that the Newton Public Schools continue its investment in diversity, equity, and inclusion and maintaining the role of the Director of DEI at the funding that it has been granted in the previous years and not make a cut of 0.5 to the position.
Mayor Laredo, I don't know if you can see the room. The room is overflowing. There are people in the hallway. The community cares about this. This is an untenable situation. Please fund a level services budget for our school district.
Just want to recap that the current situation of our budget landscape is that we have been given a historic increase in our base allocation. And that gives us $17.1 million to work with in terms of year-over-year expenses, 12 of which will go to mandated salary increases, 4.4 to healthcare. And that leaves about $700,000 for the entire rest of the school system and all of the things that have to happen within it in a year. That means that we have to make at a minimum, $2.8 million of reductions. And there's been a lot of discussion about how to approach that situation. And I want to say that, central office was certainly an increased area of interest regarding the size of central office and the Ed Center in general, and how there had been significant additions of FTEs to the central office over time, even with the relocation of the Springboard program to the 2 high schools. So central office has been a subject of a budget contemplation by the committee, and I have fielded significant questions from the committee, the mayor, and the community. In fact, one mayoral candidate made it a platform of his candidacy. So I do want to say the school committee has been super creative and has tried to suggest different alternatives to address these funding gaps that we're hearing about, suggesting a 3-year bridge to give us additional funding to stabilize MTSS and to expand it to the middle school. Or to do what many districts do, which is to create a special ed stabilization fund, which allows us to backstop other expenses and then remove them from the operating budget so that we can free up those monies for use that in times like we need right now. I want to share with you, though, that there was an issue of trust in the other way. We heard a lot tonight about how these positions and who central office members are reflect the very goals and values of the school system, and they do. That is what we do in central office. We are quite literally charged with pulling the strategic plan and the cultural values of the system forward. That said, there was collective desire not to continue to pull resources out of the direct student experience, which has been the school system's 6-year history. So all of these different directors and leaders and the folks who also serve under them, including secretaries or custodians, all made the list in terms of the number that is quite large, $2.7 million worth of reductions. That's a lot of individuals. We've also made some other adjustments, which people have heard about, sort of level funding the calculus project, right? So we had hoped to expand that, and it's safe, and I want everyone to know that, and I deeply thank NSF for offering to continue the support that they've had. We've also redeployed resources like $300,000 of our interns. So I just want to say to you, interns within the system from various work study programs across the region allow graduate students to get their experience. We also get a pipeline of future educators for our district. And I just want to keep pointing out that the system has yet to make up the teaching and learning deficits that exist in the budget for teaching and learning. And that is our core mission. That is the thing that we do, which is teaching and learning and all the subjects that everyone remembers. And so grateful to have additional money to finish our science program, but that's going to mean that the teaching and learning budget using one-time free cash funds will not have $325,000. It'll be deducted from that budget for next year. And I too spent the last, several weeks thinking about trust and all of the times that we hear about what has happened to the school system over time and how we really need a calm and smooth budget season. And I don't know how to bring that forward yet. I don't know how to do that because I think I was hired to advocate for the school system and for our core mission, and I'm trying to do that. But what's happening is, one person's trust breaker is another trust maker, and we are in a very difficult set of decisions. Either way, it's costly. And I think these conversations are obviously financial instability is what we're trying to solve. And I do believe all the parties in the city are trying to solve that problem. No one's withholding. It's a serious problem. There are new financial pressures that were quite steep for a second year in a row. And of course, when we have these conversations, one of the speakers said it's a ripple. I think it's an erosion of the confidence overall. That said, in an attempt to not erode confidence in our school programs, we really tried to think about avoiding cuts to the student experience. If you recall, post-override, there were lots of discussions about removing things like music and art and athletics and tutoring. And I have to say, some of those were removed and some weren't. And we're really trying to keep the student experience whole. And I tried to come up with what is the way that we decide how the student experience is affected, right? And how do you say what is essential to the district? There's operational essential to the district. There's the ability of the district to function without the position. There is the mandatory nature of deliverables of certain positions. There's the current workload and capacity that the person puts forward within to the school system. and the other available avenues to accomplish the core mission of that particular position. So I guess I'll say all of that is in the shaker as we tried to make now $3.7 million worth of cuts, because I was asked to contemplate what if we did add those additional math programs, which we all want, right? We are not a school system that has a lot of extras to give right now to the system. And you just heard none of what is being offered as potential reductions are extra. They feel core to someone and someplace within the system. And I want to say that I actually agree with most of the speaker's comments. I would wager that the school committee does too, and the mayor as well. Every single decision here that we are faced with is just an impossible choice of what can be cut when any number of groups say that what is up for consideration is core to them and core to our mission.
I also want to thank everyone who took time out of their life and came here so that we would hear their advocacy and hear their impassioned, emotional, knowledgeable testimony about the impact of these reductions. And I also want to say that I'm very ashamed of us as a governing body for not forcing that conversation earlier. The very moment when these proposed reductions were put before us, our question to the superintendent should have been, what is your plan for absorbing the loss of these positions? How are we as a district going to ferry the erosion, as some of our commenters spoke about the provision of service? We didn't do that job. We're doing it now, but it's a beat too late.
I really do appreciate Chair Peterlou's comments about the budget process. And I want to assure my colleagues in the committee, the superintendent, members of the community, that kind of collaborative spirit and frankly transparency is not going to end this year. We are going to do that next year and the year after and the year after that. And I've already outlined what I think the likely allocations are going to be in each of the 2 following years, so that the school department can start planning for those. But also, I'm committed to sitting down with the school committee leadership, the superintendent, her team, and my leadership team as early as this summer to start planning for 2028, to look at what's going on in our school system, where we may be able to provide help. What are some of the drivers, including, I think we need to grapple with the continued carry forward that we're going to see in this year's budget. So again, I just want to reassure people that this is an ongoing process. We're going to work collaboratively. We are not going to come up with one-time free cash allocations after lowballing a budget. I don't think that's the right way to go. At the same time, we do have to be cognizant of our fiscal realities. We don't get to just unilaterally raise taxes for people. The school committee, as all of us know, does not have the ability just to propose a school tax. And there's a finite amount of money, no matter how much we all might wish it's more. So that's just the general overview and why I have been so consistent with what I think was and a very generous increase in the allocation, but certainly not as much as someone might like. And that's going to be a fact of life, I think, almost forever.